Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. This setting is a little clearer. Maybe the voice isn't as easy, but at least it cuts through whatever background noise and everything else that's going on in this particular setting of broadcast. So it's that same dating site that I was on. And for years, they did a bunch of crazy stuff. And remember, I told you they blocked me from the heterosexual women. And the only people I could speak to when I was like bedridden was trans women. And of course, they were trying to steer me to young women and make allegations. They do this thing where they get you to just chat with like a 19-year-old and then say you're a pedophile. And you never made one movement forward. I mean, they're weird. Again, and then you have a bunch of people that are actually doing it, and they're doing whatever they want in their life. So again, it's fraud. They're fraud. It's not just an illusion. The illusion is an intended fraud. So I'm there, and I start by being very careful. And I'm not logged in. I'm just looking to see who's there, but I'm also investigating because they're sending those messages, the shadow messages, the subliminal messaging through these profiles. And they're also, because they're making profiles and hiring people and maybe even telling them what to say, whatever it is. Right? And then, of course, Satan's in there also helping them. So when I was logged in and I would chat with people, they were doing it. You know, some of the subliminal messaging is that which would irritate somebody, possibly cause them to act out violently, become a mass shooter based upon the entire operation, not just based upon that. Like making fun of the fact that they blocked me from women for the last, 25, 30 years. So that's one. And it's pretty obvious, but yet there's also, you have to understand how it works. The spycraft works and it's foreigners are involved, but again, our nation is part of a collective of spies that enrich one another. It's a special society. They'll protect the spies and make sure they maintain a certain lifestyle before they'll help anybody in their home nation. And in fact, they're killing people in their home nation for remuneration of varying types. So there's this other thing. So I'm being very careful, and I said, I'm not going to give them any food to work with here. When I started, and again, what they'll tell you is they're uncovering who their victim is, or who their target of the investigation is, and they're showing you their true self. But this is all psychological methods that they're using, and it's used to adulterate and alter their victim. And people in the everyday community, they don't have a problem with it because they do it and they get paid. So again, the world has definitely gone over to the other side, including the churches and whatnot. And again, being paid remuneration, your church, being part of the Trump MAGA, whatever it is. Again, the Democrats are also part of it. It's just like being in New York. There's several gangs, and they fight each other. There's gangland, mafia, several mafia families, they fight each other, that type of thing. Democrat, Republican, whatever else. Corporate world. But you know what? We, the people, are the big losers in everything they do. Because here's the same thing. If you're part of that, you're causing people to be hungry and unhoused. Therefore, you get no real credit in God's world for housing people and feeding them, because you all are part of the problem, because you don't stop what I'm speaking about. In fact, that's how you make your way, I imagine, off the backs of other people, literally and figuratively. So I'm making sure it's, the majority of them are, 32 years old and older. But eventually, what they do, it must be AI, it develops the profile of a woman. So you have to actually, you can't just click incessantly. I mean, I click pretty fast on it, and I test the speed of what they're doing. So that way it's AI, that a human can't move that fast. So you develop the preference of appearance. You develop your preference of appearance. And I do have an appearance, preference. Like for Filipino women, I enjoy all women. I meet a woman, I love speaking to a woman, that type of thing. And they go, woman, she's 27. Just get out of here, all of you. Because I'm not moving one direction or the other while I'm doing this. I'm not even logged in. So remember, in Santa Fe, they were blocking the women that were my age, or even 40 and above, I would say, and maybe even 30 and above. First, I could have some conversations with women that were 40, 45, 35. Then they block those women by either psychologically operating them or telling them, we got a big investigation here. Don't speak to them. Our people need to speak to them. And every one of their people come up to go, I'm 17. Now, that's not healthy because they're not 17. So again, they're skewing what people look like, age groups. Again, it kind of does the reverse, I imagine, where you would think somebody's possibly younger than they are. But again, it's much deeper. So eventually, it just clouds your mind. You don't know how old anybody is, or any woman is, at least. I mean, this is decades, man. They're doing this stuff for decades. While terrorizing you. Any woman you speak to is going to be their woman, and she's going to do something crazy to you. And they'll go, well, we're just investigating something. He reacted to the investigation. No, they're not. They're not investigating anything. They're committing crimes. It's known as extortion, racketeering. And they go, extortion? That means you're doing something that if you didn't do it, we wouldn't do it. Well, that's true, but it's not that type of extortion. In other words, you're still going to do the same thing if I respond to your extortion. What you're trying to do is fool my mind into believing that I have a better life when I do what you want. And that anytime that you attack me, it's because of something I did, which is bullshit. And again, that bullshit is known as fraud and extortion and racketeering. DOJ knows what's going on. They're at least blind eye, but I'm sure they have people that are operating. Now, I'm not telling you Jack Smith's doing that. Again, it's that type of world. Well, Jack Smith probably grew up in money, went to school, had a normal life, so there's nothing they could get in and use. That's what I believe, but we'll see. Again, didn't work with the coworkers I had, or he'd be dead like Jonathan Luna. And they say there's time for that. So again, we'll bump up the security. I just heard him. You're crazy. You're speaking yourself. Risk versus reward. They're fighting reality, that there is a connective community, a telekinetic communication. So the government in that aspect is moving in really witchcraft, but it's called spycraft. So what we need This lady's like I think she's she's a Mason, like a 90th degree Mason. Of course, her and her husband live here, right? I guess her parents were Masonic and they put her in, you know. She's kind of young just for that, something like that. And a woman, you know, a lot of times it's not a woman. Right? It's probably one of the few millionth degree Masons that's a woman. Now, if you study Masons, it's seeing. So it's the same thing. Do I agree with every Mason? Do I think every Mason's a perfect person? No, of course not. But if you read Mason, the Masons, the Freemasons are trying to bring on the sea, and that's the system they used to do it. Now, again, they're not my caliber of seeing, but you know they do have the capability to understand things. And if they were, and generally, you know, they could get a good job in the community, networking, and all of that. But they could also use it for evil. So again, I'm sure there's some evil Masonic lodges out there. Now, it's not Satan. It's seeing. It's a different thing. Well, you know, scriptures do things to your minds if you understand. Do things in your minds. One mind. Do things to your mind if you understand what they're doing. But if you don't understand the scripture, or not if you understand what they're doing, if you don't understand the scripture, it can't open your mind. In fact, it closes your mind. It doesn't close. Satan does, because he changes what it needs. So your mind will open. It's like LSD, I guess. Now, LSD and all that, I believe when you take LSD, it doesn't really do that, but God comes and blesses you to help you through that, or try to help you through that. So it can open your mind. But I think it's a risk factor. I think when you use drugs and your mind expands, and God, after all these years, may just simply say, yeah, their mind expands, because you all say it does. You know, and that's a lot of what's happening on the planet is what we back. That's why they come in and they turn people against me, because they get additional backers to alter me. Again, that's why they're in that dating site. I contacted that dating site years ago because there were like 12-year-old children on there. It appeared, at least the photos. Now, going forward many years, that could have been, what do they call it, you know, catch a pedophile or something. Or maybe they were trying to manipulate me into that. Just get me to click it, like clickbait, you know. Right. And I made a complaint, and he said, well, that's the United States. In the Philippines, it's 12 years old. I'm like, what? So I dropped it, and I was like, I can't fight that. Right. But eventually, somebody did fight it, and he did have to come to line with international law or international agreements or whatever they did. He eventually put an age restriction on it. You never know if you're speaking to him or the FBI, trying to twist your head, making you think 12-year-olds is okay. And again, they say they're testing somebody. They're not. They're isolating the person from normal relationships. And that's, the Bible actually tells you that. But again, psychology would tell you if you have a normal relationship, generally, unmolested, you won't molest. Again, unmolested is a big quote unquote. So I'm on the site, and I developed a pattern. Again, I'm telling you how to investigate this. But again, they might not do it to you because they don't feel comfortable, because it takes time to figure out that you're not a federal agent or an intelligence officer and all that kind of thing. So I don't know if it would work. But again, this is still investigative technique that would work many places to see if people are. It works physically and it works works physically, and then it works like on the internet. As far as metaphysical, I'll have to study if that makes a valid thought. Right. Could have been a psychic blip there. Just give me a hint. That probably works. It works metaphysically too, I guess, because they'll start casting spells based upon what they believe is happening. So you develop a pattern of what you prefer in a woman. Just work on appearance, make it easy. And you can move much faster. If you start like trying to scrutinize whether she's, oh yeah, I think I did too. I think right. So what I let them believe was, and I am very careful of clicking on photos, profile photos of women that have children. I like go real fast out of that profile. She's like, we've got them afraid. So then there's a large number of those women whose appearance I would be attracted to that have kids. Now, of course, in the Philippines, that's pretty common. I spoke to one young lady, and I just saw her as a friend, but she was like 21, and I probably should have acted on it. I'd be married. It was early enough, but again, that could have been them just making sure that nobody over 21 was speaking to me, so they could try to get me interested in a 17-year-old. You see how that works? Even my coworkers and other people are trying to, younger women. So again, you're being isolated from a normal heterosexual relationship that you prefer with somebody closer to your age. And these PIs and these police officers, they're violating their oath. They're violating anything decent. And you're only going to have interaction with young people. But you have to understand there's spells, there's spycraft that is altering your sexuality and changing you. And then, they'll say it's impossible unless you're already a pedophile. Psychology does not say that. In essence, they're brainwashing you to be a pedophile. And they're using psychological torture to bring it about. I don't know if Jonathan Luna's girlfriend was a victim in it or part of it, but she did it to me. Have a woman that you're trying to seek and try to annihilate you after she gets you interested. So what that's doing is proofing you from looking for a woman, like if you're in your 30s, it's in your 30s. It's a law enforcement, you're law enforcement. So you won't later try to date that type of person because there's always torture around it, psychological torture. Because, she may have been a victim. Because they can see this is how spycraft works. They can trigger a third party or a second party or whatever, or a third party, I guess, to attack you. I feigned a lot of attacks while they were doing it, like verbal attack. And they think they're there, We've arrived. Very shortly, you'll be a mass shooter. Give us another $200,000 operator. Next thing you know, their whole kingdom crashes and they're all indicted. Thank you. So, where was I? So, multiple things are happening, but also there's subliminal things happening. Also, there's things happening around here to clog my mind. No, you can't ignore it. If you ignore it, actually, they teach you if you ignore it, it gets worse. Mikhail's guy from West Virginia. When I said it gets worse, my hand went and pointed at him. Driving in his van. Nice van. It's that newfangled gray color like I guess the Forerunners and stuff are. No, they actually needed me to investigate the whole thing. That's really what it is, I started figuring it out, I guess, but they're killing me, my family, my workplace. And some of them were my coworkers at that point. They had infiltrated the courthouse and the Marshal Service. And they prepared a trap for Chief Donovan. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but boy, he was so mad at the Marshal. Marshal was part of it, part of the takeover by the criminals. But at that point, he couldn't say anything to me because the trap was. Well, and he never walked up to me and said, "More, watch your sex." He never did anything like that. He probably should have. And at that point, I think he did figure that out because he had become part of that machine. Because he believed he was doing something, but what he was doing was sullying me using the false statements of other people in the office. And it wasn't anything serious, but it was the build up to the end. And when Luna ended up dead, it kind of stopped it for a while. Two things happened. Luna ended up dead, and two of the criminals in the government and the Marshal Service ended up in an internal investigation. Or I probably would have been out of there sooner. It was God. God led me. There was no way that it's anything else. I had spirits directing me to paperwork, pointing to lines on the paperwork with my fingers. They were I guess, possessing me in a good way to send a message. I was like a human Ouija board. And then I leave the government, and Ronald Reagan passes on. So Ronald Reagan was part of that effort, And again, Ronald Reagan was different. Again, you can create an illusion of being Ronald Reagan, just saying you're conservative, because he wasn't just conservative. He was a taskmaster to private sector and private industry to make them do the right thing, to be that trickle down instead of that tinkle down that we have today. Today, we're in a tinkle down economy, and it's mostly trickle up. That's why nobody's really getting up unless they're evil. So at a certain point, all the way through this, I'll click on transgenders because I do connect with transgenders. I do read the lives of the transgenders, and I give them encouragement, and I also help them understand reality because something's in their mind, and that's Satan confusing them. I prepare them for a life alone. I say, look, first off, be very careful because people are going to come over there to the Philippines and they're going to have sex with you. And I've said it out before, kind of to a transgender, but it probably works better in their mind because even if they can't hear me, they receive an inference. Hopefully, and some people could be so far asleep that nothing works. So be careful of that. But I said there's something that's blocking you. I said, look, I'm speaking to you from another country. I have great information for you. And you're all the way over there in the Philippines. That wasn't by accident. You can't get my information. So again, this is all orchestrated by Satan, but it includes all the people that I speak about. Moving physically in furtherance of Satan. So I get their mind going in that direction, and we have some, back and forth, and a lot of them wanted me to speak to them. And at this point, I said, if I speak to you, your life will never be the same, at least until I go away. I said, I'm not going to do that to you. Including they might actually get paid $1,000 or $10,000 to play me. But I don't want them because that means they might go to hell. And they'll present it, this guy's an international criminal, like they did to all the government people over there in the Philippines. It's actually, they're sold out. They get room and everything to do me. Like I said, they'd be dead if people knew what they were doing. Because over there, they don't put up with it. You just have an extrajudicial execution. It may have actually happened. I don't know. So what ends up happening is the appeal. It took a little while because maybe I wasn't as clear, and it's probably better not to be absolutely clear in what you're doing, right? But once I centered on a certain appearance, it showed up in the trans women and wouldn't show up. Definitely wouldn't show up in the older women. It was showing up in the younger women. Now, if you look at Filipino and Thai women, some of them that are, they gotta put on makeup, but they also keep a very young appearance. So again, you'll look at and again, I don't know if they're doing it. Oh yeah, she's 45, but she's actually 25. So who knows? But yeah, some of the older women look very young. But it's a certain appearance. It's just a kind of hair color versus skin tone, that kind of thing. And then maybe a height and all that. And I play with the height every so often. See what they do. Or it does, if it's an AI. So it was only showing up in very young. So I couldn't actually, to get to that appearance, I couldn't click. I couldn't click on like a 40-year-old woman anymore. Now, something they'll do is you have to click through to get to the appearance. You have to click through a trans person. Again, I'm going to investigate it. You have to click through a trans person to get to the person So when you click through a trans person or a regular person, and again, there's very few sites in the world where I could do what I'm doing there to investigate them. It's probably maybe the only site where I could do this. Not because they can't get access, because it doesn't have in this site, it doesn't say man, woman, trans. The trans people select man or woman, whatever they want to, put out there as far as something as gender, kind of. Right. They just say something like, "I'm not a real woman, not a real girl, but I am this, that, and the other thing." Thank you, Mary. So if you click to a trans, again, if I can't see this, this might actually be like, and their will and stuff. Remember that I'm reading their wills, and actually some of their will is for me to go over there and be a pedophile. So what they want to do is find out who can attract me into the Philippines, and then cut off that relationship when I get there, or maybe have them not even show up, and then try to steer me to pedophilia. Oh, I got offers all over the place to be a pedophile. I can read it. So again, that's the end result when I go through the whole thing. Because at the end, it was just trans women and probably 22, 18 to 22. So if you link to the appearance you like, you have to go through where the clicks they want you to click. So you may actually learn that subconsciously. You may not even know that you're consciously doing that. Thank you. Now, I don't believe all of them are real people, right? Because they increase the number of. They're trying to tell me it's the algorithm, and it could be, but the number of trans women really increased to a number that probably reality doesn't sustain on that site. I mean, they could be real. They could have let's get as many trans women as we are here, and then we'll flood it with trans women. I mean, they could move in people's life. In other words, you could have trans women, and they're all sitting there in life, and they get these ads from the dating site, and then all of a sudden they move into the dating site, or somebody could be paying them. Right. Here's $1,000. Get on the dating site. Just do what we say when you're on there. We'll give you another $1,000. Now you have to remember they isolated me first before I ever went to a dating site. I mean, quite a while. And actually, no, I guess they did. It was a few years that they isolated me and tortured me, and then I went to dating sites that were just general American dating sites, and they would wreck the profile. Profile would be gone the next morning if I contacted somebody. This is why I'm working for the Marshal Service, also. And they would catfish me and all sorts of stuff and laugh. One of the things is your gay thing is they'll use a woman photo and then it's a man and they try to convince you that you're gay and try to change you to be gay. Again, it's possible. You can be born that way, but you can also be changed. So again, the political arguments are put out by spies. You can see, they want me to see it and they laugh about it because I can see all the stuff that they're moving around me. And some of the people see it, and I don't know if Jen Psaki ever saw a single post from me or knows that I did the inside, but she's got a show called The Inside. So they want me to see that they stole my stuff, but they want me mad at, there, my stuff's here. Oh, that's UPS, not FedEx. They want me to attack her. So again, they'll tell you that they're testing me or something like that if they get busted. But in reality, they're trying to get me to target Jen Psaki. I don't know if anybody else is being moved like that also. The Justice Department knows what's happening. They think it's funny. It's their power! But of course, it's anti-power. So what's the other thing? they were doing. I guess that's it. Just kind of, it appeared the goal was pedophilia. That looked to be the goal. They're not testing anyone. These are intense psychological manipulations, and I can see them, but other people wouldn't necessarily see them. They could just automatically be changing. And again, I'm not so foolish to think that they're not actually doing that somewhere that I can't see. And then some of it's just, you can't put yourself out that way. So it blocks you from where you're going. Especially being a former federal agent and somebody even in my retirement that has helped with, take down cartels and drug pill mills and things like that. They're sick. DOJ's sick. They're all sick. Now, there's some people that, are just kind of hiding in there making their money, but they have to tread lightly. And again, they always need somebody to do the work. That's probably why I was able to get in there for 10 years, or actually 12 years. But again, anyone that knew me that's honest will tell you 12 years of work for me is 24 years worth of work for everyone else. In 12 years, I probably mostly did 24. And you have to understand, too, you'll have people that'll do fugitive operations and they'll work long hours, but, it's a glory hound position. And then they get home early, that kind of thing, too. So, again, it's doing whatever needed to be done kind of thing. Now, the last few years was a mess, of course. Right. Now that it was taking over the courthouse, everything was, I most likely was being drugged at that point. Again, it was designed for me to fail. And again, they gave me these big projects while they were killing me because they know depletion. They know how depletion works and knew how all that stuff works. I didn't know what they were doing. Now, when it came to the last one, I just trained the new guys. I did the work. I supervised it. But, I kind of just trained the new guys so they could carry that model forward. So it is what it is. It isn't what it isn't. How much time? I got 32 minutes. So again, the whole thing is designed to encumber my mind. There's no way around it. Okay, if I didn't go there, yeah. But then again, I wouldn't get the information I get from connecting to those people. Again, I take care of the Philippines to a certain degree. Now, I had to cut off the Philippines because they became that dirty. But I think there's something, again, like Trump, like when Trump is up, he's altering the Philippines. And he's altering the Philippines, and they become, they're evil people that go up also. Right. Yeah, the word is F you. Even more than a year of that, F you. Oh, it's using it on these big criminals. They lie. The only criminals they use it on are the ones they create. They come in as the hero, and we rescued your children, we rescued this person, that person, but they're part of the machine that's causing that life. There are no choices. Death, I guess, is the other choice. Kill yourself, and then it doesn't happen, right? AKA Jonathan Luna. Deputy Director Dudley. Bustamante. Now they altered him into that. Try to take me in those directions. That's why they keep there's another guy, DB. They did the DB. What they want is for you to go rob a bank or something like that. So again, and that's not the only thing they want, but when you think about it, what would cause you to rob? You don't have money. So they block all your money. And what money you have gets wasted because you move in a certain direction that's supposed to pay dividends, and you either can't get there or it doesn't work because they hire people in that location to destroy your way there. Remember, when they tell you that, Epstein would still be free if you said nothing about Trump. Guaranteed. because it wasn't only about Trump. It was about the other people, like the Justice Department, Chase Bank that went to Epstein's Island. No, the Clintons are an illusion. The Clintons are actually small fry in the deep state. They're just, they're people. So they can make that, 5 versus 5 thing appear here or there, Republican versus Democrat, which doesn't exist. You can't. You have to understand, when the Republicans tell you that we, get rid of the social safety net, you won't be taxed as heavy, it doesn't work because the economy will crash. And you'll be poor, and you'll inflation, and all sorts of things will go crazy. Actually, I guess it wouldn't be inflation, but you won't be making enough money to pay for. And again, it's happening now, but the Republicans business owners are setting it up, along with the price of gas, because the dummies in the White House don't want to keep the price of gas down, because they're going to push everybody to their cronies to make electric cars. That's where their stocks are and everything else. So again, a lot of it's based upon what their investments are. But there is no infrastructure for it. You're hurting the little people with that, keeping the gas prices up. Now, it's both Republican and Democrat. Democrats won't fight for you to get the price of gas down, and Republicans are, cronies are raising it. Now, there's no third party. So you're thinking, well, maybe we should have a third party candidate ready just in case this takes in their mind. That's fine, Jimmy. That's how it works. Spies are sitting in the background creating the mess. So that keeps you investigating their victims versus them. Thank you. There's no reality to anything to do. Again, I'm not somebody that says everybody should be prosecuted that comes onto the radar screen. But what I do say is there's a right and a wrong in that, and they reverse it. They don't prosecute the people who need to be prosecuted, and they prosecute people that don't need to be prosecuted. Now, again, I'm not telling you Trump's innocent. Trump's one of the people that need to be prosecuted for being what he was and who he is. Again, part of it is a biblical theory that those that know little, lightly, and that are beaten lightly to beat anybody, but are beaten lightly, and those that have more knowledge there's more required of them. 100%. So the Bible actually counters all of it, but the church erases that part of it because it's part of the scam. So the sun is still strong, and I had, independent agreement that the sun is stronger now than it was years ago. It's actually not hot, but the sun's hot. So this bullshit about greenhouse gases is just to make some money for a bunch of cronies. Well, they all figure how many years are we actually going to live here? And they have the money to move up to Montana. They have the money to move up, have a place in Minneapolis, a place in Canada. Some of them even go to Canada in the summer. Alaska. Again, they really don't care about global warming. And those that care about global warming really don't care because it's just a scam. You can't. Most likely, the majority of greenhouse gas increase is most likely from the heat. Expanding the gas. So you're never going to beat it unless you figure out what's causing the heat. And it feels like the sun, and I don't think you can beat it. Like I said, the only way I think to beat it right now would be to put a haze up in the sky that's healthy, that you don't have to worry about harming the environment. And then the sun would be toned down, like a sunscreen or a sunblock. It's the only way to do it, I think. Because if the sun's this intense in Kansas, can you imagine what it is in Saudi Arabia? Okay. Thanks. So again, it's the same thing they're doing physically in a person's life. They're isolating them. Well, they isolate you and they put you online. Oh, again, the other thing they want is for me to masturbate and hopefully masturbate with a trans woman. This is where their mind is. That's really the epitome of their operation. I even tell them, I said, look, even if we were, a couple or something like that, all they want is for me to masturbate, and my country's corrupt. So, what country are you in? Like Russia? No, the United States. They're full of shit. They don't accept anything. They just play with it. And that's where the Republicans right now are part of that, launching that trigger. It used to be it's okay to be gay, and it's not okay to be gay now. And they're manipulating that. They even tried it's okay to be pedophile, and now they're backpedaling on that. And I'm not telling you that it should be okay to be a pedophile, but I know what you're all doing. You're catching that. You're creating pedophiles. That's the next step in creating a pedophile, is to make people believe that it's okay somehow, and then reverse it a couple years later, or 5 years later, whatever it is. Oh, you mean the Democrats? No, the Republicans are behind that. There's no doubt. And they're not even paid for all of that. They're paid as hit people to be able to do something like that. But a large percentage of it is just them refining their wares and feeding their psychosis. Government people are psychotic. Again, sociopaths seek certain jobs. And one of those jobs is a government job. Police officer, a civil servant, doctors. I think doctors are on this. And they're the cronies generally you'll find within the deep state working. And again, Trump's deep state, he's not somebody that's fighting deep state. He's a corrupt government person, and he doesn't fight corruption. He wants to own the corruption. That's who Trump is. Trump and his people are the people that want to own the corruption. Thank you, bro. So it would probably work for a physical, because I explained it physically how it happens. They don't allow older women to speak to you, and then they put trans people around you, gay men, and young girls. Those are the only people you can speak to in life. While they're willing it. Remember, they're devils. Use massage therapists, physical therapists, doctors. Now, some of them are actually official CIA people. That's how dirty it is. Oh, CIA, we're protecting all of you from the terror. Why you're such a terrorist? Who is it? Oh, the pedophile. We're protecting you from the pedophile now. Fill in the blank. That's all it is for them. These are things they've done to people for decades, if not ages. Nothing else is wrong with the country. Nothing at all. But the majority of their time, they're spending telling you that there's something else wrong with the country. And they're liars. They even know, some even know that they're manipulating crime politically for political purpose. Good morning, how are you? So again, they know they're manipulating crime for political purpose. Or again, it's not politics. Again, it's not political purpose, because if we study politics, that would actually be something possibly, I guess it could be negative, because you don't want to increase crime for political purpose, right? So again, but the idea that, oh, it's politics, Shay. don't get it. So again, you have to explain it to them that that's still criminal. So politics has become crime. Major choices of it. Decades worth of choices. In my life alone, let be all the others that you killed. So let's go to the Elon Musk X thing. You know, I think Congress might want to make a law, that says, anybody working in that industry should be national security cleared for employment. And you're not going to be able to clear. Again, the idea is here. I'll give you an example. So they write all this shit up. It gets submitted into government files, and none of it is real in reality. But that's who I am. I've never been convicted of a crime. I had to think because I did plead guilty to reckless driving because I was drugged, and at the point I couldn't remember anything. But I was like don't drive for a month in our city. It didn't even go to my record. Right. And I wasn't even near their city. I was traveling when it happened. But yeah, somebody can come over from another country and actually be a serial killer. There's a theory. I'll speak about it in a second. And he has a perfect record, right? If he goes for a job, because there's no vetting that person. Even if you could vet him, there's a chance. Mexico's what, about 25% reliable, maybe 50 in some cases. So you can't vet that person. That person can get a job at SpaceX. No real history of what they've done and who they are. So there's this theory going around the mind. What's her name? Pilson or Polson? That the guy's actually an immigrant and may be a serial killer and started killing like immediately. It may have came from me. I don't know. And that's one of the theories that came up last night. If he hasn't assimilated, and he may not have assimilated because he's in hiding all the time. Now, again, it could be some guy that, went to K-State and was a football player. It just haven't caught up to him yet. Thank you. Thanks, sir. But the idea is, what if he was really a serial killer type, serial rapist killer type? He may have been a serial rapist and then at that point moved to killing. So what if he came across the border and just started, raping and killing? And some we may not even have found yet. Like if it's in the woods or something. So he may have developed a pattern where he goes into hiding and then comes out. Like right now, he's coming out again. Maybe here in Kansas, maybe somewhere else, or he might go home to another country, or he might go back to his college football career now that the summer's over. 100%. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what happened. And again, it's not because he's an immigrant, it's because he looked like that person. I was in Walmart and and I felt sorry for the guy because he couldn't figure out that the register was not on. And I figured, well, I think he's probably an immigrant, and has never been around the electronic payment systems, or very rarely. And I said, no, not here. Go to that one over there. I gave up. I could have just walked in front of you and been rude, like most people would have. I was over there. And then he stood in front of the machine. He looked. He was all confused. And he got through it. He figured it out. I mean, even bagging was a little. You watched him; he's awkwardly bagging. So I don't know if he's ever been in a Walmart before, or maybe somebody else went for him. Whatever it is, he wasn't all that old, but it could be somebody that was in prison. Maybe came from a poor life and never, maybe never got to a Walmart. Maybe in the middle of nowhere. He could end up, maybe as a kid he got interned for 15, 20 years, whatever it was, and never. He could be somebody fresh out of prison. That was the other thing that was possible. And he never actually had to go to Walmart and do all that. And, comes from some backwoods location, right, or something like that. But when he went to leave, he looked at me, and it was like a double. It was like, had that look, that hinked out look. Now, I don't know if he's just kind of weirded out by not being able to figure out Walmart very easily. So again, my whole thing is I don't know what it was, right? So he went to leave, and I looked at him, and it triggered my mind. I'm thinking, where does this look from? So I got out to the car, and I pulled up the Harford County case. And, I again, at that point, I couldn't compare the photo to his nose, his ear. Well, actually, the nose isn't really doable, but the ears were doable, I guess. I couldn't do that. And he had longer hair. He had the same basic build. He definitely, I don't know, because they said it's 160 pounds. And if he, wait, how do they know? They don't know he's 160 pounds, right? No, we don't know that. Okay, this dude was probably 160 pounds, but he looked a little leaner than that. So I would say that guy's probably heavier than 160 pounds. At least I think you don't know, maybe unless you're hiding something. Thank you, Mary. So, but I mean, he had the same general look, and I was leaning towards that he was just an immigrant that had freshly arrived here. His clothes was, real neat, clean. So, he may have shed it, took a shower, had some clothes, whatever it was. But the other theory came up, and I said, let me just let them figure out what it is. Because he's on the cash register, and he put dollars in there or one bill, and so he might have some DNA or fingerprint on that. But I said, let me let them figure it out, because there's also other people that are wanted for other crimes, and I'm just going to put it in there, and I'll let those people figure out what's going on there. Right. And it wasn't because he was Hispanic. Actually, to the reverse, when I saw him, I said, "Oh, poor man, doesn't even use this here. Let me help you." But the theory came up that he goes into hiding, and that that would cause him. Let's say he got here in, I guess the first murder was February. Let's say he got here in December or January. Right? He raped somebody in February and had to go into hiding. Or even got here in February, who knows? So he may have been wandering the streets, and that's why he hit that house or whatever it is. And then he moved off and, living out of the woods or, immigrant communities. It's not weird in an immigrant community to need to hide or to want to hide. Right. So again, he could have been letting other people do his shopping or whatever it is. And again, the chance to be in Kansas. I mean, it's probably a good location for him, essentially. If he gets into an immigrant community here, it's not the West Coast, it's not the East Coast, so it makes sense. Or even if he's trying to make his way back to Mexico from Harford County. That's usually what happens, which is strange. So again, he may not be an immigrant, right? Because the majority of immigrants, when they commit a crime, they leave. Right? The simplest thing to do. But I guess today, not so much. There's so many immigrants, so many different things. There's other options. So. So the system I'm explaining may have been engaged in the life of those FBI agents that sexually offended. And again, you're saying they should be above it, but if you're not protecting your agents from that, and actually maybe some of your agents are part of it in the name of whatever, then again, there's some other people that need to be arrested. And at some level, he might be a victim. Again, it's a very hard thing to say somebody's a pedophile as a victim, but if there's sex cult operations going on at high-level CIA-type technology, then, it's not to catch a pedophile. I mean, it could be those people. Right? I mean, the MO would be that they get a couple cases underneath them that are real. I got some insider information about some people that are doing that, okay? And Squirrel would be a kind word. So again, they could be causing that. And everybody, yeah, they should have that kind of intrusion. But yet, if they're causing pedophilia, I mean, that's horrible. Sex cult type stuff. And in their life, they're having sex around it with each other. So again, it's really a cult, like an ancient cult, but it's using modern technology. I had to go to the Bible the other day because, and it's interesting because in movies sometimes things come out. And again, Charlton Heston was in there, so the Ten Commandments movie was high power. It's not exact verbatim for the Bible, but when when Moses said, "If you're with the Lord, come with me," and people were walking away, they made me do it. They made me do it. And I thought, and maybe that was an inside thing from the movie. I don't know. They may have snuck that in there. It doesn't say it in the Bible, but the Bible does say it in other areas. Again, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. The person that's going to pay for your sin is the one that caused you to fall. That's all in the Bible. Now, church doesn't teach it because they're part of the thing that I'm speaking about. Now, again, there's some churches they may not be, but they don't have the information because it's been killed. Thank you, bro. So again, they take this like zero tolerance standpoint, but yet it's not based upon fact. It's based upon cover up of what they're actually doing to people, so that they can cover what they're doing to people by saying, zero tolerance for that kind of thing. They don't exactly say it, but they yell at you and bang on the desk and all of that. We can't let that go. And in some cases, it's not even happening. It's just to stay in that life. And some they've been paid $1 million already. And then they say that guy. And say, okay, I got it. We won't be speaking ever again, but I got it. They spend a lifetime tracking the criminal. But in actuality, it's a victim of organized crime and a criminal enterprise that is responsible for narcotics distribution and sex trafficking. Until the Marshal Service pulls out of it, they'll get no credit for what they're doing to limit sex trafficking. You need to pull your people out of that shit. Former, present, it doesn't matter. It's a little scam they all play. Again, it's a type of projection that they're going to enforce certain laws when they're causing people to fall into that law breaking, that type of law breaking. So it is what it is. Housekeeping. That's what's going on here. What's going on here? What's going on here and here? Hi, how are you? Housekeeping. That's what I can hear. Housekeeping. She's a Q. I've been seeing her. I don't know why. I mean, not seeing her like dating, but I've been seeing her, and I can't figure it out. And she must be a Q or something. Black woman. Just started yelling, housekeeping. I mean, this is stuff that was basic in government. In other words, I had no future in government because it was corrupt when I went in. But of course, made a wonderful career until they broke everything. And they started breaking it before I got there, believe me. And then you say, why? Get the fuck out of here with why. Jesus Christ. Calm your sick heads down. There is no why. What it is they make a bullshit, again, I call it the quantum leap. They make a bullshit case until they can get to the next thing. There's always this why. At a certain point, they told everybody that I raped my own kids to get the effect that they wanted. So again, we'll go to that 75-year-old guy. Horrendous. The woman shouldn't have trusted him. Right? Man, no, not really. That's what they say. That's what government's saying. Because so again, puts a question into it. Government just projected that she should not have just a 75-year parent. She should know for years. Right? Again, we all have lives like this. Right. Except for me, we wouldn't trust anybody with our kids. Me and my wife were pretty protected. Like at least during those years. Like yours. I guess some churches a little bit. Not much. I used to go along with my kids generally to youth group. Actually, I did, I guess. Right. So we didn't trust even the church. So again, people do allow their kids to go with people that are family friends. Right now, the odd part is usually there's kids involved. And again, that's usually what the scenario is, right? So I guess there is no protecting, because you figure, okay, that's a man and a woman raising kids, and it turns out they start giving your kids drugs and having sex with your kids. Right? So the whole thing is false anyway. But we don't know if that man spent the last. Obviously, he's not 95. What is he? 75? I say 95. He's 75 years old. Maybe I did say 75. 95 came up for some reason. Okay, 75 years old. No, it's not about me. It's about you. 75 years old, and he, I guess, raped a child. The problem is when this type of thing is happening, we don't know if they worked on him for 30 years to make that happen. Like the whole time that her and that guy are together, there could have been an operator operating him to do that. Why? Because you're insane, all of you. There is no sanity in any of you. That's why you attack your victims with psychological methods to make them appear crazy. Because you all crazier than loons. Anybody that would allow a system like that to exist is a nutbag. But we got money. Well, remember that money in hell. You can take it with you. Burns just as quick as all of you. In fact, this planet will be hell, probably within 50 years. No, they're lying to you. They can't correct the weather. The weather can correct, and it's good to have clean air, but I guess it's not good to have clean air. I take that back, because cleaning the air actually made it a few degrees warmer, maybe 10 degrees warmer, because it increased the ability for the sun to penetrate the atmosphere. So part of the problem is the air is too clean, and we're going to clean it even further. Greenhouse gases do not increase the felt heat of the sun. Period. There is no theory in the world that will say that's true. There is no theory that will say the greenhouse gases are increasing the felt heat from the sun. In fact, there's all this evidence. Look, it's spitting up everywhere. It's coronas and flares. But it's not happening, right? Why? Because their stock market and their ability to transcend hot places with money and go cooler places and only go to the hot place in their bathing suits for a couple weeks in the middle of winter. Well, Republicans ain't any better. I mean, come on. They got their own bullshit. Like raising our prices of gas, the prices of oil and gas, and saying it's the Democrats. So again, you see how politics is bullshit. They're all doing the same thing. We, the people, are losing. Well, they're granting. Ramaswamy's not a people. DeSantis is not a people. Nobody running for office right now is a people. They don't let people run for office. Would-be dictators. That's all they run. That's all they care about. Hey, you're a would-be dictator if you don't stop what's going on in my life. If not a dictator. Nobody wants to be a dictator. A dick potato. That's the only word I can like embarrass people with. They kill all the. What they did is they kill the language. Like extortion doesn't mean extortion anymore. It just doesn't have the felt shock. It's not because people change. It's because you witches, warlocks, devils, demons, sorcerers, antichrists, including the antichrist in the church, have shifted what things mean. But you haven't attacked the word dictator yet. Or been able to change it. I can read words and see what the effect is on people. And they can too, because they change words. Like you'll read my post and it won't make sense because they're thinking into it. And you're receiving their mind. It actually says what I intended to say, but they shift it in the mind. So again, there's a lot of witchcraft. There's much more witchcraft than when Jesus was here. And the church is part of that witchcraft. And again, I posted a couple articles yesterday on sex crimes and Burning Man, just so you understand where the real world is. What they're doing is they're making people believe that there is this line that certain people are crossing when they're not really crossing much of a line, if at all. When everybody else has crossed that line and they're part of it. But again, they use that same system to get people to offend and get people to be mass shooters and think, are you ready to be part of it? Are you ready to join? Have you seen that online? Are you ready to join? It's a scam, man. They're all criminals. Like when you look, because you can't see, you look at maybe the Justice Department, you see all these highfalutins. I see crime bosses. Their time's up for not being seen that way. They're managing crime for their own selfish gain, even if it's just to be somebody in the Justice Department. Let's say they're not taking any outside money, which I doubt. Most of them most likely got paid somewhere, including a promotion. Again, you may not have been promoted in your career for doing something evil, but you get your name by playing that game. That's corrupt in itself also. Again, the idea that you could actually be given no extra money other than keeping your job is also corruption if you're allowed to keep your job if you do something corrupt. Because, well, I haven't taken any money. Your job is corruption. Because the sheriff won't keep you here unless you commit the crimes. Or let you stay here. Housekeeping. Knock, 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 knock. Housekeeping. All right, stay peaceful. Praise God and all to